Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the GF Chefs. On this episode, we are going to show you how to make gluten-free sweet potato gnocchis. Okay, so our first step in creating our gluten-free sweet potato gnocchis is to preheat our oven to 375 degrees. To start, you may want to use about 2 pounds worth of sweet potatoes. We'll do one for demonstration purposes just so you all can see how it goes. I'm going to cut a few holes in it, and then after that put it into the oven and let it cook for about 45 minutes. Okay, so now that we've taken our potato out of the oven, you want to hold on to it with a nice rag because that potato is going to be hot. The next thing we want to do is cut straight into our potato. Cut it nice in half just like that. And take our spoon and we want to scrape out all of those wonderful insides of the sweet potato. But you might want to do it pretty quickly because your potatoes will be hot. So now that we have one of these done, cut that, kind of set that aside. Come over here, get our other one peeled. Any parts like that you find that are kind of brown, we definitely do not want to use those. So the next thing I like to use is I like to take a strainer. If you have a ricer, that will work just as fine. But this is going to help us push our sweet potatoes through and make a nice finely minced sweet potato mixture that makes it a lot easier to work with. As you can see, it's a little bit of work if you don't have a potato ricer, but once it comes out, this is going to be an extremely fine potato mixture. And it will really work out well once you go to add in the flour and your eggs and all of your seasonings. It's going to make this a much more workable, basically sweet potato bread, sweet potato dough. And it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So we'll just kind of finish mashing this up. So now that we have our potatoes mashed and riced, as you'll see, it looks like the pile that's being collected beneath the strainer. It looks like a very fine pile of sweet potatoes, and that's exactly what it is. The straining, running everything through the strainer or through the ricer if you have one, helps us get out all of those lumps, which makes it very smooth. So now that we have all of our sweet potatoes mashed, what we want to use, I made a mixture of flour that's equal parts white rice flour and tapioca starch, and because I'm only using 1 pound of potatoes, then we're only going to use about 1 cup of the flour. So that's going to be half a cup of your white rice flour and half a cup of the tapioca starch. As you're working with it, you'll want to create a little bitty well right in the center and crack in 1 single egg. A good rule of thumb as you're working with this is for each pound of potatoes that you'll want about 1 cup of flour and about 1 egg. That's going to make it really nice. And you'll want to keep adding flour as you work. You don't want to add too much because we're not trying to make an actual dough. We just want something that's nice and light that we can work with. And it's at this point too, while you're working with your dough, if you have any special seasonings that you want to add in for your sweet potatoes, you can always go with something like a little bit of sage or some thyme. So we'll do a little bit of dusting here, kind of get it nice and workable. Fantastic, and that's exactly what we're looking for. We just want something nice and light. Okay, so now that we have our gnocchi mix pretty much the way that we want it, as you can see, kind of did a little bit of cleanup. I love cooking, I love making gnocchis, but I do not enjoy wearing sweet potato gloves. So what you want to do is just kind of roll it out just a little bit, cut it into equal sections, And you'll want to take those, kind of roll those out as well. You want to add a little bit of flour, not too much, just so it doesn't stick to you or to the countertop. And then whenever you finish, come through and make a few more little cuts just like that. If you don't have a cutter, you can always just use a plain butter knife. You want to hold it in your hand, take a nice fork, and that's where you're going to get those good ridges. So you just make a few, just grab them, hold them in your hand, run your fork back and forth, and just kind of set them aside. And these are definitely not something that you want to try to do on a weeknight. These are a little bit more time consuming than most of the other things that we show you. However, if you take time on a Saturday, this is a great activity to do with yourself, with your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, your kids. This is something that kind of gets them involved and makes them feel like they're a part of everything that's going on at the house too. The other really nice thing about making gnocchis is after you roll them out, you can freeze them. You can individually freeze them, and they will keep for up to about 3 months. You really don't want to go much over that, just like anything else. Gnocchis are also susceptible to freezer burn, so it's just something to be aware of. But when you put them in the freezer, stick them in a few Ziploc bags. You can do about 20 or 30 per bag, depending on you, depending on the size, depending on how many people are in your family. And once you get them made, they are a great option to just pull out of the freezer, kind of let them warm up a little bit, throw them in a pan, saute it, and you have a wonderful accompaniment to any weeknight meal. When you cook gnocchis, you're going to have a couple of different options. One, you can boil water, put in the gnocchis, and when they float to the top, then that lets you know that they're ready. Scoop them out with a slotted spoon. Me personally, I prefer a completely different route. I like this pan sear mine. Gives a good caramelization, nice change of color. Just grab a few of your gnocchis off the pan. Put them down into your saute pan with a little bit of hot oil. Whatever you do, don't try to fry gnocchis like that other boy did by putting them directly into a deep fryer. That's definitely not what you want to do. Now give them one final shake. Turn off your heat. Put them on a plate and you are ready to enjoy. So as you can see, gluten-free sweet potato gnocchis. That's all from us here at the GF Chef House. As always, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay gluten-free.